Blender took the most care of her while she was on set, because it didn't stop with moments like this. Not many people know this, but while Mara Wilson was filming Matilda, her mother was undergoing chemo treatments for breast cancer. So to make things easier on her and her family, Danny and his wife Rita, who plays Matilda's mother, let her stay at their house after filming days. I'm sure this went a long way in helping the young Mara balance these two challenging chapters of her life that just so happened to overlap. Sadly, Mara's mother passed away before the movie released in theaters, but she was shown an early edit of the movie, so she got to see her daughter's amazing performance before she died. And now, it's my job to dig us out of this depressing hole without seeming insensitive. Back to the story, after Trunchbull has the newt thrown on her, she freaks out, storms out, and then Miss Honey dismisses the kids for recess. But Matilda stays behind and confesses to Miss Honey that she used her powers to move the glass. Of course, Miss Honey doesn't believe her at first, but Matilda easily proves herself by using her mind to lift up a glass of water. At least, that's what happens in the book. An interesting and subtle difference with the movie is that when movie Matilda first tries to show Miss Honey her powers, she fails and has to do some practicing at home before she can use them reliably. Despite this difference, both scenes end with Miss Honey inviting Matilda to her cottage. My God, does it get sad. Miss Honey's backstory is rough. Her mother passed away when she was only 2, her aunt became her live-in caretaker, then her father, Magnus, died a few years later under mysterious circumstances. This allowed the aunt to seize complete control of his entire fortune and estate and become the sole guardian of Miss Honey, dominating every aspect of her life until Honey was bold enough to move out on her own. Sadly, the aunt still controlled Honey's finances though, so she was only given a small fraction of her paycheck from the school, and the only thing she could afford was this rundown garden shack for 10 pence a week. There was no bed, no heat, no running water, and no electricity. She was a street rat, and if Aladdin saw where she lived, he would have taken that bread away from those little kids and given it to her. But there is still a shoe that hasn't dropped yet. That horrible aunt was Miss Trunchbull.
No, God, please, no!
Which you already knew if you saw the movie. Another interesting reversal here is that when Miss Honey tells her story in the book, she keeps Trunchbull's identity a secret, while in the movie, she presents it as Trunchbull's backstory, and we don't learn the abused girl is Miss Honey until we get to her cottage. I'm not sure why they changed it. Maybe they thought it'd be too hard to keep the aunt's identity a secret if she showed up on screen, since Trunchbull has such a distinct shape, but I thought it was an interesting difference regardless. Oh, and I think at this point, the movie needed some action and drama, so they added a chase scene through Trunchbull's house that's scarier than anything I've seen since Predator.
You're ghosting us, motherfucker. You give up position one more time, I'll bleed you. Real quiet.
I would honestly rather be chased by Jason Voorhees than Trunchbull. Tell Freddy Krueger to bring it on, because it's not his face I'm seeing in my nightmares. It's this one. Now, hearing Miss Honey's story has a deep impact on Matilda, who decides that she must do something about it. She prods for a little more information, then she starts practicing her powers at home, just like in the movie. Only in the book, she's lighting a cigar instead of making a bowl of cereal. When the movie's Matilda feels capable with her powers, she bravely returns to Trunchbull's house to take back a doll that was special to Miss Honey when she was growing up, as well as harass Trunchbull so she thinks her house is haunted by the ghost of Magnus Honey, the man she allegedly killed and robbed. I should be clear that neither the book nor the movie outright confirms that Trunchbull caused his death, but both Honey and Matilda are convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt and act as if her guilt is confirmed, so we the readers just accept it. If she was falsely accused, that would make this epic finale a lot darker, but she's still a garbage person, so don't feel too bad. Now, the book does not include this initial haunting scene. Instead, we skip to when school starts the next day. But both version stories match up almost exactly from this point onward, with Trunchbull stepping in to teach Honey's class once again. The only major difference here is that the book's Trunchbull didn't go through a haunting the night before, so she isn't in the same crazed state as the film. Regardless, she proceeds to needlessly berate the kids as a way of punishing them for receiving the parental love she was evidently deprived of as a child, until Matilda steps in. While Trunchbull was holding a boy named Wilfred upside down by his foot, another student named Nigel started shouting for everyone's attention. A piece of chalk was floating in front of the blackboard, and it was writing something. Agatha, this is Magnus. This is Magnus. It is Magnus, and you'd better believe it. Agatha, give my Jenny back her house. Give my Jenny her wages. Give my Jenny the house. Then get out of here. If you don't, I will come and get you. I will come and get you like you got me. I am watching.
You're about to enter a dungeon.
Not the most coherent message, a little redundant for sure, but you get the gist. And most importantly, so does Trunchbull. The man that she allegedly murdered will take revenge against her unless she gives all the sweet loot she took off him to Miss Honey, his rightful heir. The shock and utter disbelief that Trunchbull felt while watching this unfold was enough to overload her system, causing her to faint and hit the ground hard. After this, some teachers dragged out the unconscious body of the defeated, bloated beast, and Miss Honey thanked Matilda for her help with a hug and a kiss. The movie version unfolds pretty similar to this, only they make it a lot more climactic, because at the end of that haunting scene, Trunchbull found a red ribbon and knew it belonged to Matilda. So she visited the class the next day, planning to scare her into confessing. But this doesn't go as planned. Miss Honey reveals to the class that Trunchbull is her aunt. Then, when Matilda is about to face Trunchbull's wrath, she starts impersonating Magnus' spirit and scares the ever-living hell out of her. Her ghostly message is mostly the same as the book, but concludes with Matilda smacking Trunchbull with erasers until he faints. A bit more drama is added when Trunchbull wakes up and proceeds to throw a student out the goddamn window again, but Matilda saves him with her powers, and soon enough, all the students turn on Trunchbull, giving her the old Festival of Fools treatment and throwing everything but the kitchen sink at her as she runs for the exit. As both versions of Matilda watch her vanquished enemy flee, she feels elated, like she just saw the face of God. And from here on out, things just keep getting better. The Trunchbull fled town in the middle of the night, and Magnus' will magically showed up, and Miss Honey was given the inheritance that she was owed all these years. But my favorite details are at the very end. So in both versions of the story, Matilda's dad is being investigated by the lawman for his shady business practices. In the movie, we see the cops snooping, sleeping, and sleuthing around her house, and at one point, Matilda's dad even confronts them.
The cops, Dad.
You interested in timeshare?
But ultimately, they get enough evidence to arrest him.
You know where you'll end up? Federal orphanage.
So the Wormwood family has to quickly pack their things and escape to Guam, which would technically still be in the U.S.'s jurisdiction, but it makes sense that the Wormwoods wouldn't know that. In the book, we aren't told anything about Mr. Wormwood being investigated until the very end, when Matilda returns home from spending a day with Miss Honey and finds her family frantically packing for Spain. In both versions, she doesn't want to go with them, so she requests their consent for Miss Honey to adopt her, which they readily agree to in a matter of seconds. However, the movie needed to be a little more official, so Matilda whips out some adoption papers that she'd apparently been carrying around with her since she was old enough to Xerox, and her family quickly signs them, leaving her and Miss Honey to live happily ever after. As for her powers, the movie says Matilda never had to use them again, but it looks like she still uses them for convenience, like to get a book off the shelf from across the room. The book goes down a little bit differently though. You see, after Matilda's school gets a new headmaster, she's moved to the top class, and soon after, she completely loses her powers. Miss Honey then shares her theory about what happened. Basically, Matilda developed her powers because her brain wasn't being challenged enough and had a ton of excess energy that she was able to channel through her eyes and manipulate her environment with. When she was finally bumped up to a challenging class that required her to use all of her brain power, she didn't have any left to power her telekinesis. But that's okay. Matilda says that she didn't want to go through life as a miracle worker. Now, if only she knew the kinds of miracles that Roald Dahl had her perform in the first draft of the story. If you're a lifelong fan of the Matilda movie or book, then this section is going to be a doozy for you, because we're about to review the original edition of the story. That is, the very first draft that Roald Dahl sent to his editor, Stephen Roxburgh. I'll be honest, the sequence of events that you're about to hear leaves me a little conflicted over how to feel about Roald Dahl as a person. It's a well-known fact that the man had plenty of controversial opinions that most people nowadays would consider deplorable, but here his thoughts manifest into actions, and let me just say, I would never want to work for him. The details of this story and the real-life events surrounding it also come from Jeremy Traglown's biography on Dahl. So let's start at the beginning, because from the outset, this version of Matilda is wildly different, and dare I say, a little bit evil. You remember how, in the beginning of the story, Matilda is described as intellectually brilliant with an IQ that far exceeds her foolish, malevolent parents? Well, that all applies to the original. Except her parents were the ideal, nurturing, loving couple that any child would be lucky to grow up with. Matilda didn't seem to appreciate this, though, and instead of pulling pranks on them as a punishment for their wicked ways, she is the wicked one, and she just did it for the sick thrill of making their lives miserable. Another discrepancy that changes the entire meaning of the story is the role of Trunchbull, who played no part in the original conflict. In fact, instead of the grand climax revolving around the differences between she and Honey's educational methods and the crimes that she committed against her own family, she kind of just disappeared halfway through the story. So what was the original conflict about? Well, you're not going to believe this. Or you might simply not want to. A little over halfway through the story, when Miss Honey, who in this version is called Miss Hayes, learned of Matilda's genius and telekinetic powers, she would make a confession of her own. And I wish I was making this up. Miss Hayes confessed to Matilda that she had a fever, and the only prescription was more cowbell. Okay, I am making that up. Miss Hayes revealed to Matilda that her father was a bookie and that she had a gambling addiction. Specifically, she bet on the ponies, and somehow she was in debt £20,000. Matilda, who at this point had evidently shed her wicked skin and become the curious, helpful, resourceful girl that we all know from the final version of the story, decided to help Miss Hayes, and together they concocted a scheme to get her out of debt. Kind of like the final publication, Matilda begins to practice using her powers by going over to the local farm and pushing over all the cows and ponies, which I'm sure the farmer truly appreciates.
Yeah, I know.
At the same time, Miss Hayes sells her mother's old ring for £2,000 so they have some funds to bet with. When their preparation is complete, these two soon-to-be criminals go to Newmarket and put all of their money on a horse with 50-to-1 odds. And she and Miss Hayes pocket £100,000, about £269,000 in the modern day, and almost $350,000 in freedom bucks. With more than enough cash to get herself out of debt and live comfortably, Hayes renounces gambling forever, and everyone lives happily ever after. As you can see, this is supremely different than what we got. By the story's finale, Matilda's malevolence is completely forgotten about, and so is Trunchbull. Not only that, because the story's main conflict left Trunchbull out completely, there was no need for Miss Hayes' temperament to contrast with hers, effectively making her a completely different character and not nearly as sweet as the Honey that she would later take her name from. Call me crazy, but I just have this feeling that a story about a 6-year-old helping her teacher recover from a gambling addiction wouldn't have resonated nearly as much as the version we got. Though I would love to hear your thoughts on that, especially if you grew up with the book or movie, so comment them down below. But now you may be wondering how this mess of an original became the story that we all know and love today. And while Dahl obviously deserves most of the credit, we have to shine some light on the role that his editor, Stephen Roxburgh, played. Long story short, when Dahl sent the first draft you just heard to Roxburgh, who worked for his publishers at Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, the editor saw an incredible amount of potential, but he expressed some concern over the issues I highlighted in my breakdown. The bizarre power
that
conflict,
loyalty
the
guy
complete
said, and
disconnection
there's
between
no
the first
loyalty
and second
tokens
halves,
I have.
along with some structural and timing issues. He sent his notes to Dahl, who somewhat reluctantly incorporated the changes into his second draft. And while it still wasn't perfect, Roxburgh was never able to communicate his few remaining issues to Dahl. That's because Dahl, who was approaching the end of his life, was looking to maximize the profit from one of the last books he would ever write. And he knew he did not have a contract signed with Roxburgh or FSG. He demanded to be paid a full 15% royalty over what was paid to his illustrator, Quentin Blake. And while Roxburgh had basically no choice but to agree to this, he made it clear that he wouldn't be able to offer such lucrative terms on future deals, which infuriated Dahl. Not only that, when he sent the second draft of the story to his American editors, they loved it and planned to announce its release for the spring of 1988. So with that seed planted in his mind, he went looking for some UK publishers who would print the story as is. Even though Dahl had been working with Roxburgh for years at this point and privately expressed his sadness about ending their partnership to his family, they ultimately convinced him to not let sentimentality get in the way of business. In other words, why let someone's poor widow Fifi stop you from turning a profit? Dahl went on to release Matilda during his desired time frame with his new publisher, Penguin Random House. And while he was very open about the original story being far different than the final draft, he never publicly acknowledged the invaluable role that Stephen Roxburgh played in getting it to that point, which in my opinion is pretty messed up, especially when you consider this was Dahl's fastest selling book ever, with over 500,000 paperbacks being sold in the first 6 months.
How am I to
And
know?
that was just in
It's been a
Britain. As
while.
much respect as I have for Dahl's work and his creative mind, I cannot imagine withholding credit from the person who essentially saved my book from being a total flop. Then again, Dahl seems like the type to deny that his is even capable of stinking, so I doubt he saw it that way. But as flawed of a man as he was, the story that we got in the end is the one that he wanted to tell. Which is why it makes me sick to think that his publishers would make such dramatic changes to it.
Why is it
after
like
his death.
this? Just why? Why is it like this?
Yup, it's that time of year again, when we take a look at all the ways that an iconic story treasured by millions of children and adults from countries and cultures all around the world was vandalized by the over-enthusiastic sensitivity readers at the Inclusive Minds organization. For those new to this situation, I'll give you a quick breakdown of the timeline, but if you want to read about it yourself, there are links to every article I used as a resource at the bottom of the description. So back in 2020, the Roald Dahl estate came under fire when some old anti-Semitic quotes from the author resurfaced. These quotes had been in the public eye before. In fact, many of them were published for the public by Dahl himself, but in 2020, the social climate demanded a blind adherence to tolerance and inclusion. So whenever a public figure failed to follow this message, they were lambasted, even if they'd been dead for decades. I'm not going to go into the specifics of what Dahl said because YouTube would hit this episode with a community strike for including hate speech and then no one would see it, but there's no denying that his statements were bigoted and ill-informed. So Dahl's family, who still controlled his estate, posted an apology on their website. The problem with apologizing, even when it's done well and for the right reasons, is that the party being apologized to may not be satisfied. And after witnessing you bend the knee to their demands, they want to take it a step further and shove your face in the dirt.
I want to put some dirt in your eye.
I
This
believe
guy
what happened
here, he has
is
a
that the
huge
Dahl
ego
estate
issue.
sought to proactively avoid getting dirt in their eyes and overcorrected in their attempt to make up for the author's hurtful statements. Possibly after being encouraged by their publisher Puffin Books, who makes millions of pounds a year from Dahl's books alone, and no doubt wanted to protect their cash cow. Together, the Roald Dahl Story Company and Puffin Books reached out to an organization called Inclusive Minds, which seeks to increase the diversity and representation in children's books so that they're accessible to every child. And I think most of us would agree that's a pretty noble goal. Personally, I've never found a book less enjoyable because the characters didn't look like me or have my specific ailments, but I don't doubt that it can be helpful for children who are struggling to accept certain qualities about themselves to read about a character who not only shares those same qualities, but embraces them and succeeds in the face of them. So if Inclusive Minds wanted to help the authors of tomorrow write new inclusive stories, then more power to them. The problem here was they made hundreds of changes to books that have been in the public eye for decades and that were written by a man who very publicly stated he never wanted his books edited after his death. He's quoted saying, "I've warned my publishers that if they later on so much as change a single comma in one of my books, they will never see another word from me. I just hope to God that will never happen to any of my writings as I am lying comfortably in my Viking grave." Despite the author's clear-cut thoughts on this, Puffin Books, the Roald Dahl Story Company, and Inclusive Minds spent the better part of 3 years, and who knows how much money, editing Dahl's works for modern audiences. Interestingly, though, in 2021, Dahl's family sold the rights to his stories to Netflix for a reported $686 million after this process had already been started. So when the UK-based Puffin Books announced the changes in early 2023, Dahl's longtime and lifelong fans raged at them and Netflix. It's like, hey, we just got here. Go yell at the Puffins if you got a problem. Now at this point, we've got to be wondering exactly what changes did they make? What parts of Matilda were so controversial that they had to be replaced or removed entirely? Lucky for us, there were 4 journalists from the Telegraph who went through every single Dahl book and took notes on every change they found. Their names are Ed Cumming, Abigail Buchanan, Genevieve Holt-Allen, and Benedict Smith. Let's go through some of the findings, shall we? But I want to make a game out of it. I'm going to read the line that was changed. Before I read a new version, I want you to tell me what you think about who it can be offensive to. Your daughter Vanessa, judging by what she's learned this term, has no hearing organs at all. This one's a bit obvious. It body shapes creatures with no hearing organs, so it was changed to, judging by what your daughter Vanessa has learned this term, this fact alone is more interesting than anything I have taught in classroom. Which means something entirely different than what Dahl intended, but hey, at least no one was offended, right? When describing Matilda's father, Mother says, hardly the kind of man a wife dreams about. But this was not inclusive enough. Husbands can dream about men too, so it was changed to hardly the man of my dreams. When describing Matilda's mother, Dahl says she wore heavy makeup and had one of those unfortunate bulging figures where the flesh appears to be strapped in all around the body to prevent it from falling out. This is clearly insulting to any children who are similarly shaped, and their mothers, so they cut it out entirely. While Trunchbull is interrogating Nigel, he's described as wobbling crazily on his one leg, a statement that is unforgivably offensive. The word crazy is used to disparage someone's mental health. Fortunately, Inclusive Minds changed it to wobbling unsteadily, because that conjures up an equally fun and silly image in children's minds, right? In Chapter 14, Trunchbull fantasizes about torturing her students, saying how splendid it would be to walk into this classroom with a gigantic spray gun in my hands and start pumping it. But that last bit was changed to start squirting them all. And somehow that's better. These editors really thought the image of Trunchbull squirting her students was preferable to her pumping a water gun. I have no words. Another line, bunch of midgets, became bunch of squirts. Okay, why are you guys so obsessed with squirting? This is supposed to be a children's book, for crying out loud. Now, as you may have gathered from those lines, which I think most would agree were not traumatizing to read through at all, the sensitivity readers removed any physical descriptors, going so far as to edit and erase instances where characters turned white with fear or red in the face with embarrassment. Another focus was mental health, removing any form of the word crazy and even sane, because I guess sane implies the existence of crazy, and that's not something our inclusive overlords want you to know, because then you can call them crazy. In all seriousness, though, I do not think this censorship is part of any grand conspiracy to control our children's minds or intentionally turn them into a bunch of betas who can't handle hearing certain adjectives. This was clearly a case of business responding to trends in the market. They were hit with claims that Roald Dahl was a discriminatory, hateful person, and worried worried how that would affect sales. So they hired some help to make sure that they never heard these accusations again. What they apparently did not expect was for Roald Dahl's fan base to passionately come to his defense. A range of influential voices, from author Salman Rushdie to the UK's Queen Consort Camilla, expressed their distaste for these changes. What's more, Dahl's other publishing partners in the US, France, Spain, and the Netherlands all announced they would not be incorporating these changes, meaning that if the UK residents wanted the original, they'd have to give their money to one of them. So the UK-based Puffin Books, wanting to profit off of both markets, walked their decision back and announced that, alongside their edited version, their parent company, Penguin Random House, would continue to sell the originals labeled as the Classic Collection, which means the next generation of youth lucky enough to pick up one of those books instead of an iPad will still get to enjoy a wacky world of cool, colorful, crazy, and witch characters to fuel the fire of their imagination, instead of being bored out of their minds by stories that have had all their edgiest characters sanded down into soft, harmless shapes. They'll be inspired by little Matilda defeating the big bad Trunchbull, motivated by Charlie Bucket's integrity, and emboldened by James's bravery. But as you all know, I love hearing your opinions on matters like this, even if they aren't the same as mine, so comment them down below. Do you think it's fair to retroactively edit the work of a dead author who can't consent? Why or why not? And if you're a parent, which version of Roald Dahl stories would you want your kid to read? When you're through sharing your thoughts, make sure you sacrifice those like and subscribe buttons to get more deep dives into classic children's literature sent to your subbox, as well as mythology and folklore. I'll see you all again next week and the next with some particularly patriotic content in honor of the U.S.'s upcoming Earth Day. Until then, my name is John Solo, and remember, John shot first.
It's ego issue.
Yeah, he's going forever.
During fact, I was trying to pile trapped on him and he does that, like...
But I hit oh, he only got rid of the ones that I didn't use. I didn't get much damage for all the traps that were. I didn't need that. That was business. Just because I hit, now they're all out. Oh look, these even hit me because I hit. Now the 3,000. Never being healed. Well, I only got it down 1,000. Need some big hitting there, Austin. Need some big hitting.
Well, if I were to skip to just a big kid, well, here we go. I'm gonna drink now.
This might be after I get some 1,000.
So that's what's so wrong. It's either that I hit or I hit and drink.
The healing guy is healing somebody.
Oh, heal itself!
Had you. 1,000 damage he took back. About the amount I gave him. They didn't have nothing on them other guys. Hey, I didn't need 3 crap. From the mid guy.
find anything funny.
What, just can you put that on? Here we go.
Will you take the V8 away though?
I don't know, I'm hitting them, so I'll use the V8. I got another V8 to put out there.
to a grave with him.
Yes, play to the belt pipe. That's what I'm talking about. And a what? High school at 90 level. Sight numbing staff. I'll probably use fast later. Problem I got is I got no gems. Did you get anything?
I got some kind of rope that
Got a
had.
rope.
Yes, but it's not.
It would have been good for me, probably. What's cool?
It has balance targeting, balance damage,
Yeah.
and some
yeah.
other general things.
See, I don't think I got any. Yeah, I got no tier one.
Wait a minute. Another part of my thing that says Blade of the Fell Titan.
There you go. It's a 15 damage.
Yep.
Did I put in extra critical or 1 power?
Plus 320 max, plus 210. I mean, plus. Yeah,
Should I go
210
for
max.
extra damage or extra critical?
What, the Blade?
Yeah, I can slot 1 gem. It's either plus 1 to damage or plus 2 or critical.
I say critical because critical when it's hit, critical is usually something that would still increase more damage.
Yeah, then you get outbound healing and more pip chance and more critical blocking. So, yeah, it's a good deal. It's also 1 point higher on my health than the old one. So that don't hurt anything, but okay, well, now when I look
Oh, crap.
Yeah, she's nice. What am I supposed to do? I got converted and it's up. So it's a master.
Whoa,
But I
whoa,
gotta
whoa,
put a
whoa,
master
whoa,
on it.
what do we have here?
Yeah, he's dead. Hey, you take that. He's dead. This is fun. I mean, he's dead.
I saw what school it was, but I thought it was full that.
Why wouldn't he? You pull that. Oh, now it's different when it's me. I'm supposed to do great because I'm so great. Right?
charging a little bit over $7 for a Steam keyboard Torchlight 3.
And they want $20 for that. Yep.
What, like without a site giving you a code to redeem? Because that's why I like doing time. See if a website has, you know, an option where you can get it for a much cheaper price and just redeem the code.